This time we're at the borders of Yunnan, where the drug trade's Golden Triangle is close by. Myanmar is right behind the mountains. We're in Menglian County right now. Yunnan is most famous for pu'er tea, but in recent years they have been growing coffee, and they're great at it too. They've even won the national championship.
Hello， 你好，你好，叶萍，哎，我香港来的，
叶姐就好，
叶姐，
对，然后这边是我老公，
哎 ，Hello， 怎么称呼啊？
严三龙，
严三龙，龙哥，
你好
，Hello， 你们在干嘛？
我们在施肥，
哦，对哦，
在施肥。
Yeping and her husband are ethnically Fa. The Fa is a direct transition ethnic group, meaning that instead of a gradual modernization, they leapfrogged from a primitive society into a modern one. A lot of the heritage has been kept intact.
好棒，好棒！
这个我们挖出的乐器，我们叫做木鼓。
木鼓。
像现在的话，有手机，有广播，以前是没有的，就拿这个叫人，敌人来侵犯的话，就是敲一下。
啊，通讯的。
通讯的就回来了。
啊，起身啦，起身啦，夠鐘啦，開工啦！差唔多吧。
In Myanmar village where Yeping lives, everyone grew tea and sugarcane for a living. Their farms were small and scattered. They didn't have much to harvest, even if they worked hard. Many struggled on the verge of hunger. So the couple tried every means to help the village out of poverty. In the end, they came up with the idea of growing coffee.
I'm now in Menglian, Yunnan. Along with other coffee countries such as Brazil, Vietnam and Indonesia, Menglian lies in a region known as the Golden Belt for coffee farming, which is at around 25 degrees north and 30 degrees south. With this geographical advantage, farmers here can grow nice coffee beans that can double up their income and lift them up from poverty.
We needed to develop and make money. We had to work out a way. In the beginning, my husband, who has traveled to the outside world, came to persuade me. He said, I have an idea to help the people make more income. I said, what's that? Coffee. I had never heard of it. What is coffee? I had never even seen it before.
In fact, as early as 1892, coffee was already brought to Yunnan by a French missionary. But back then, coffee wasn't popular among Chinese people, so few farmers planted it. Yet in recent years, coffee has become increasingly popular in China's cities. Yeping and her husband found the crop promising, so they bought some seeds, offered them to the whole village for free, and asked them to join in. Yet no one took up her offer.
很难的去跟他们沟通，咖啡没见过，就这样。
我们是见就不见过以前。
不相信这个会变成钱，也能活这样嘛？
农民他们怎么要相信你？你自己都没有经验啊，你要怎么跟他说啊？
一家可能会跑4、5次，他可能是觉得我烦了。就像你去买一件衣服的话，每次我都来，可能你会烦。哎呀，我就减价给你，是这样，他抱着这样的心态去给我，好吧，我就跟你做一亩。
In 2010, Yeping took the lead and set up a coffee cooperative in the village with dozens of households. Situated at 1,600 meters above sea level, Menglian is across the river from Myanmar. With a huge temperature difference between day and night, it's ideal for growing coffee. And the winter harvest of coffee could make up for the income gap for tea planters. They waited 3 years for the first harvest.
那第一季的那个收获是怎样？
第一季，哎呀，9亿上了霜冻嘛。对。
心情很低落，很不想再发展了，真的不想再种了。那个时候真的水势很大，很强重，真的想哭啊！没办法，我们不能吃，也不能喝的时候，当时的时候，喂猪也猪不吃，但是他们是这样的。
In the end, half of the farmers gave up. Even Yeping herself was at a loss. Could you sleep?
No, back then it's like I wanted to cry, but I couldn't even let it out. Because if you trim off the frozen bits, if you trim the stems, they may still grow again next year. So I asked them to trust me one more time, to give me a chance and give themselves a chance. All that you've spent on the seedlings, the expenses, we'll take care of it. So they said, if that's the case, let's try one more time.
There was actually one more reason for her persistence, not giving up.
Back then, Mva women would not go outside for work like Han women. Back then, women had a very low social status. They're very, very low in status.
What was it like for women?
Women were not allowed to eat at the table.
You couldn't eat with them?
We just stay on the side, we serve the dishes and eat what was left, and we couldn't go out.
No, you didn't go out at all.
We'd stay in. A backward way of thinking, like in our village, there's one family I clearly remembered, which was why I wanted to change for myself. Her family was very poor too, and her husband was lazy. He'd make the wife do everything. He abused her too. I wanted to change things for women of this generation. This is modern society, not a feudal society, right?
Women of direct transition ethnic groups are the most disadvantaged among the disadvantaged. When Yeping led the village to planting coffee and went out to meet clients, some men in the village found it unacceptable.
The old-fashioned seniors would ask, why was I going outside?
What's wrong with that?
Maybe they thought for a woman to see a client, something shameful might happen. A woman who's always out, who knows what she's up to, she might be doing something bad. They might think this way, but they didn't know I did this for their sakes.
That's so unfair for you.
Yes, I felt wronged. Then I asked my husband, they're all saying that, do you trust me? He said, how could I not trust my own wife? Just ignore them. Just go our own way. That's why I have persisted. Women around us were inspired. I told them not to let people boss us around. What women in the city can do, we can do too. We can stand up for ourselves without other people running our lives.
Gradually, more and more women joined Yeping. They all wanted to challenge the tradition and stand up for themselves.
这是个底肥。
你算是牽頭人吧？大家姐，
他們都是女性嘛，
跟佢揾食㗎啦，係真係。我覺得這樣很好，女性幫助女性，讓她們地位也提升，收入提高，
有自己的一份事業，就不用看那個的臉色看過日子。
之前你都比較多留在家裡的，
是的，
你的那個世界也擴大了，是不是？
是，
葉
萍姐經常帶我們出去。
你帶他出去，
就是周邊的那種，出去轉轉看看這些咖啡啊，然後也見識外面人自己賺錢自己花，感覺很爽，
很爽。我同意，我同意。那你教我怎麼去弄？哦，翻越性，然後在這邊嗎？要挖到很深嗎？
也不需要很深。把這個肥料幫均勻就可以了。
其實都幾攰我想講，因為呢個太陽真係好曬。
現在苦沒關係，苦了之後就是甜的，甜了之後就是錢。
把终点说出来了。那姑娘，你出来工作，你老公会不会觉得你很了不起啊？有没有觉得你很厉害，可以赚钱？
我们女人也要有自己的底线啊，赚钱自己花那样，
有家庭又好，然后有钱就更好，是这样对不对？要跳舞吗？
To grow good coffee, courage is not enough. She had to face a lot of obstacles. Yeping says we shouldn't persist only when there's hope. It's really persistence that brings hope. I used to have 1 or 2 coffees a day. It's tasty and refreshing. But after drinking Sis Ping's coffee, I can truly say that it's with coffee she redefined women's status. Living in poverty close to the borders, Sis Ping said generations of women here could only eat in the kitchen. They were not allowed to eat at the table with the family. Why must they endure that? Sis Ping decided she must change this. So she started the coffee business and shouldered it all for the village. It takes 3 years for the coffee to bear fruit. The first 3 years went well, but nature wasn't on her side. Frost hit. She was helpless and under great pressure for 2 periods of 3 years. The first 3 years planting coffee ended up in failure. They tried again. Come the 6th year, when they finally had coffee cherries for sale, prices were at an all-time low in the global market. So they followed you for 2 times 3 years. And yet, you achieved nothing.
Yes, they said, "Boss, is this real business you're leading us into? We don't see any money."
The price of coffee beans is dictated by the global market, making farmers' positions rather passive. So Yeping decided to tap into the specialty coffee market. She studied hard to improve their planting, washing, and processing techniques. This village woman even went to the city for a qualification course in coffee grading.
I went to take the Q grader course and the coffee production course. I had to pay for the courses myself, like for the Q grader course. The tuition fee was 15,000 yuan. It was only through the course that I discovered the many flavors of coffee. I didn't drink coffee before that, but after that year, I now know what's good and what's not.
After learning everything, she came back to teach other farmers in the cooperative, starting with coffee tasting.
I teach them how to appreciate coffee and make them realize if the coffee is clean and if it's not tasty. If they know how to appreciate it, they will know if their own coffee is good. They can take note of things in the management or picking process.
After 10 years, something sweet finally came from the bitter coffee beans.
In 2018, we took her beans for a coffee competition in Yunnan by chance. All the judges came from across the country, and even those from overseas were unanimously impressed. So she won the first prize in Yunnan, which is basically the best in the country.
You never thought you would win.
That's right. People didn't expect that I would win the first time I entered the competition. They probably thought I was lucky.
But she won first place in 2018, 2019 and 2020.
That couldn't be sheer luck. How could that be just luck? It's solid quality, right? It's the effort you put into it.
Yes, by winning, there's hope for our farmers to make money and accumulate some wealth to afford a good life. That's where she gets her sense of achievement.
Ye Ping told us how she made a name for herself by entering a nationwide coffee bean competition here in Pu'er City. I came to Pu'er City and found out that people in Yunnan are putting real effort into growing coffee. They even specially set up an international coffee trading center to assist farmers sell their coffee.
刘经理你好，你好，Hello Hello， 我陈贝儿，香港来的。好。
The Yunnan International Coffee Exchange Center was set up with government support. It aims to help Yunnan farmers gain national and even global exposure. Every year, the Exchange Center organizes a coffee bean competition on par with international professional standards, featuring renowned specialists to help Yunnan coffee break into the global market. So, this is the prize-winning coffee by Ye Ping.
Yes, 84.
84 points. That's a high score.
Yes, Ye Ping has put a lot of effort into specialty coffee and into making a cup of good coffee. These years, Menglian's Fuyan has become very well known in Chinese circles, as well as in world specialty coffee circles. Beans they produce are selling at really high prices. Regular raw beans are about 20 yuan per catty, but their beans can sell at 100 yuan per catty. That has helped solve the employment problems for coffee farmers and enterprises.
There is still a lot of potential for coffee in the Chinese market.
At the moment, annual consumption of coffee is 7 to 8 cups per person on average. But in European countries, the US and Japan, it's over 300 cups per person per year. There isn't much room for growth there, but we have a huge population, with main consumption from the post-80s, post-90s, and post-aughts. Coffee has become a new beverage, a new concept. People are going after a cup of good coffee.
It'd be unbelievable if everyone had just one a day.
Yes, incredible. We can't even grow enough coffee for our own use.
Today, Yunnan's raw beans are bought by coffee dealers around the world. Mixed with other kinds of beans, they appear in coffee chains we visit every day. Veteran US buyer Marty is now stationed in Pu'er City, teaching a coffee Q course on the side. How would you position Pu'er coffee?
I think Pu'er coffee is becoming hotter and hotter these last few years in China. The big chains have started and small specialty coffee shops are also using at least one kind of Yunnan beans. The common coffee drinkers get to taste it too. In the international market, as the quality of other Chinese products keeps rising, offering greater value for money, people are beginning to think Chinese products are okay, acceptable to me. Those in the coffee industry have begun to see it too. This year, we are exporting to Russia, Japan, and the US. People are stunned. They never expected it.
Really? I never expected it either.
Many people still don't know.
Ye Ping's specialty coffee is now extremely popular. They are selling at handsome prices with steady orders. The attitudes of the men who used to criticize her have changed.
When we first started planting, people said, "A woman trying to do a man's job?" When I made it and they saw it, they said, "That's not bad, show us the ropes." Then they started to join us.
Now I'm happy to see her success, and when I drink her coffee, I can really feel that she can hold her head up high. It's that taste of victory. Growing tea gave them no income in winter. With both tea and coffee, they're making several times more. The 200-odd households in the cooperative are now out of poverty. There are many of these new houses around. Villagers told me it costs 300 to 400,000 yuan to build one. is not cheap. But now there's a 40,000 yuan government subsidy per household, together with the extra income from planting coffee in addition to tea. With a double income, many more villagers are moving into new houses. But what really made Yaping happy is that women in the village can now stand with their heads up high.
这个黄就是500，哇！你啲全部都貴嘢嚟嘅喎，呢班原來富婆嚟嘅其實，呢度華族的富婆。你看我什麼都沒有。你們辛苦了，就拿去買東西，我覺得這很開心，值得。
It's a joy to watch her brew coffee because I can feel, after a decade of hardship, she can now enjoy such satisfaction. I'm so touched.
Thank you. We have all been through the bitter days. When life was so hard, we didn't know coffee could give you such an enjoyable experience. There's sweetness in the bitter, just like my life.
That's right. Let me tell you, this is the best coffee I've had.
Thank you.
Because this is your coffee life, I have to thank you for this.
Don't say that.
Thank you. Next stop, we're off to Sichuan, Tibet, the Sky Castle. Litan County in Gars Tibetan Autonomous Prefecture was very poor. Thanks to tourism poverty alleviation work and a few influencers, this place shot to fame overnight.
Hello， 大家好，我係丁丁。
咁叻嘅廣東話都識講。丁真直播。你有多久沒騎馬了？哇！